So just whenever you want to start.
All right.
And I'm not on camera.
Y'all show prepped up, Matt?
I'm ready.
You ready?
Born ready.
I'm ready too. We are ready.
It's also giving people a chance to get into the show if they're
gonna watch it.
We don't have because the Facebook
Yeah.
you.
No,
You
it's
have to
not.
wait.
You have to wait.
All right, let's go.
Whoa.
All right, we ready? Ready?
This is a show before the show. Yep.
Everybody's tuning in to watch us
Everybody's
sit here and
tuning
look
in.
on our phones.
It's called show prep.
Yep. Ready to go.
Mike should be hot. Hello and welcome to the Football 360 show. I am your host, JP Rock. He, in the other box opposite me, is Mr. Matt Bierman. Matt, how you doing?
Doing great, JP.
Did you get past the flood? Or
Oh,
you
yeah.
had a little plumbing problem.
Yeah, a little neighbor had a flood next door to us yesterday, and a little bit got into our facilities restroom.
Nice. It's all cleaned up. Cleanup of a flood is always
No fun.
always a good time to be had. So it's week 7, I guess it is. Going to be week 8 in the football season.
It's hard to believe.
Episode 5 of the Football 360 show. And special thank you to Wendy's in Chesterfield, Missouri for sponsoring Football 360. You can find them in Chesterfield Valley. Work hard, play hard. Wendy's is family owned and operated, known for their pizza, wings, and live entertainment. You can have a great time inside or outside in the heated patio. Wendy's also has carry out and online ordering available. Stop by and check them out. You won't be disappointed.
You will not believe
And
me.
exactly.
Good stuff.
It's very good stuff. And enjoy that. Hopefully you'll enjoy the show. Got some fun stuff in store. Have a couple of really cool guests coming up. We have Coach John Merritt from DeSmet going to be joining us a little bit later on, as well as Nixon, Missouri 2026 elite caliber offensive tackle Jackson Cantwell. And I'm not familiar if you played or were there at the same time as his father.
Yeah, he was a little bit different age, but yeah, I'm
Is it?
very well aware of him. But yeah, I think he was a little younger.
A little younger?
But absolute stud. And obviously
Olympic athlete.
His son is hasn't fallen far from the tree. So
no. In fact,
there might not be a bigger recruit coming out of 2026 in the country.
He's up there. I know some of the services are labeling him as such.
Yep.
Like that. All kinds of good stuff we're going to be doing. We're going to be talking a little 7-on-7 football. 7-on-7 traps are popping up everywhere, as I'm sure you're well aware.
It's that time of year,
including your own. But I'm seeing all the, and it's great because I remember when 7-on-7 was just boom.
Yep.
And now it's just across the state, across the region. They are everywhere.
Yeah, they are, and there's a lot of different ones and serve different niches, if you will, with inside of 7-on-7. But I think that's something to probably educate parents on what 7-on-7 is and what it isn't. And I think you got to be real careful going into the off season. Once you wrap up, especially if you're a sophomore or junior, and thinking you're going to go in and do a whole lot of recruiting is going to take place in 7-on-7.
It's not really for recruitment. That's true.
No, there's unfortunately the way the NCAA sets up, it's not AAU basketball. There's no observation periods where they can come and watch you. So, Missouri, we're a little bit different. Some other states obviously have spring ball, so they work that in, and then their teams play their 7-on-7s throughout the summer. So it is definitely different, with how we intertwine with our 7-on-7. And
right. But I do recommend it. I think it's great for kids to stay active, to hone their skills with, and you do see guys actually get better.
Yeah, and I would say the practices,
practices is
typically where
they're probably better than the tournaments.
Yeah,
perfectly frank, if I'm being totally honest with you.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, we see there's a lot of things you can do, and you get guys that compete with each other in practice. So the best kids in the region, at our practices, and we see high level guys. I mean, Ryan Wingo popped out to multiple practices last year just to get reps with guys, and it was a lot of fun to watch him compete. But he's also looking to hone himself against guys that are better.
All right, so we'll talk about that, and we'll see, we see it become national, and you see some national teams come and take local kids and fly them here and there and that. So we'll delve into that a little bit more. Obviously, huge week in high school football as it's winding down. We're getting closer to the playoffs. A lot of cool stuff going on with that. Mizzou. It had to come to an end some point. Nobody expected a perfect season.
Yeah.
So we can talk about that. They lost, no shame in losing to LSU.
No, not at all.
Was a great game. Also going to talk a little bit of Lindenwood. Lindenwood won. We've talked about that in the past. Have Lindenwood, some recruiting stuff like that. Who's unbeaten still in high school football? Focus a little bit more on that. But right now, I do believe we are going to be joined by Coach John Merritt from the DeSmet Spartans. Coach Merritt, how you doing?
Hey, how are you doing tonight?
Doing great. Thanks for joining us.
Coach, great to see you.
Oh, thanks for having me on, guys. I love the show so far. I've been listening every week. You guys doing a great job.
Thank you. Appreciate that. So tell us about the DeSmet Spartans, the 7-0 DeSmet Spartans. I was at your game on Friday. Great game. You were not necessarily pleased following the game as we were walking out the field.
Well, I'll tell you what, anytime you get a win in Missouri football, especially playing against these good teams, you got to be happy about it. And as a coach, I'm almost never pleased in the moment. I always am nitpicking and finding things to complain about to our players and assistant coaches. But the reality is we're 7-0, and that's pretty lucky. We're really in a fortunate position. Our guys have been playing great. They've been taking coaching well. They've been playing together. We got a heck of a defense. And, my defensive coaching staff, Donnie Pruitt and all his guys, Terrence Poe and Alfonso Scott. I mean, those guys have been lights out from beginning to end this year. And our kids are just phenomenal on defense. And when you got a great defense, you can get a lot done.
Absolutely. And that's the thing that really stood out to me. I mean, I don't think, and I go all over the state and region. I don't know that I've seen a better defense than you guys, especially your front seven, your defensive line and linebackers. I mean, that's all future college players.
Those guys cause a lot of trouble. And I can tell you, practicing this spring and summer against them every day was miserable. And I'm on the offensive side of the ball, and we couldn't get a playoff. Mike Phillips and Caleb Merritt, they're in the backfield. They're harassing you. They're all over the place. And Quincy Byas has put together an unbelievable season. He can play all four spots on the defensive line. He's got 3 interceptions, which is wild. And he's really putting some things together. Ashton Phillips has been sensational at inside linebacker, and Jason King is so good. I mean, he's been good for a long time, and he's only a junior, and then we bring in Bryant Poole, and he's really good, and Peyton Smith has been great at our nickel, and the secondary is all new guys, but they've been good as well, and so we're really pleased and excited about what we see defensively.
Yeah, you also have a youngster that I spoke with after the game that really intrigues me, named Titan Davis.
Titan Davis is a big customer.
Oh, yes, sir.
And he's getting good on the defensive line, and getting to play with all those other guys has really allowed him to develop a little more quickly. He's the last guy on our line you double team because those other guys are all so good. But he's also gotten to play against top quality talent. So he kind of gets the best of both worlds that you'd hope for a big young kid in his maturation. And he's really, really coming along. He could play a little lower, but he's really learning how to play with his hands. His feet are starting to get good, and his mentality is outstanding.
I look at him, and I look into my crystal ball all the time with these guys. And so I look at him, and I see somebody who's up next. Talk about Quincy Byas. What are schools looking at him? Do they see him as a edge, linebacker, defensive end?
I think they like him as a defensive end. Mm-hmm. He's got a lot of great qualities on the line of scrimmage. He's really hard to block.
Yes.
And it's rare to find a guy, fast guys can't block him, big guys can't block him, strong guys can't block him. It's just too hard to get your hands on him. And if you do, he's really good at block destruction. Mm-hmm. And feet are so quick, and then he's in the backfield, and he's a real problem. So I think schools are liking him as a defensive end, especially these guys in the FCS. They love him, and he makes a million plays. He's got a great motor. He's got a knack for the football. He scored a couple touchdowns for us this year on defense. He's blocked a punt. He's picked one up. He does everything. He's really unbelievable.
He is. He's very athletic, and he could drop into coverage. That's why I ask. He looks like he's so versatile.
Well, he's always trying to tell me that he could come on offense, and I could. I'm pretty sure he's the next Ezekiel Elliott if you go ask him.
Yeah. There you go.
But we've been talking about those D linemen, though. They're the best athletes out there. I mean, those guys are typically the guys you can get and make sure that they're, they are a guy that can make plays and block punts and then sneak in on offense and make a big play for you, right? And
that's right.
They lobby all the time. I know that.
Yeah, for sure. And Quincy's good. He's good.
A guy who did look a little bit like Ezekiel Elliott Friday night was Jason King, another big-time recruit, just a junior. But he carried the ball a little bit, and he was pretty excited when I talked to him about him getting the chance to carry the ball.
That's another guy you sneak there in the backfield when nobody's looking, and all of a sudden it's a 220-pound athletic fullback coming at you. And that's a little change of pace for what we usually have. And Jason's done a remarkable job, and he's really taken on a big leadership role in our defense. But being able to bring him in short yardage packages and run the football with him has been a luxury.
Yeah, I thought he was a change of pace when you guys played CBC. I mean, it was definitely it caught him. I mean, he was definitely surging with the ball, and I think there were some big plays and showed his athleticism.
Yeah, and so flip side of the ball to the offense, Dylan Duff, first year as a starter, doing a nice job. Dylan, way more athletic as a runner than I even knew. And I know Matt had told me about it, how good he was with the ball in his hand, running the ball.
Well, right now, I think, as our league play is coming to an end, I think he's third in the league in passing and second in rushing. And that's incredible. And we knew he could run, and I was doing my best to not talk about it, keep my mouth shut, and let him loose in the league season. And he went nuts running the football in our league games, and he's been an X factor. And in his first season as a starter, we love the way he's developing as a passer. We think he's got ways to go, but he's just going to need reps and time. We know how good he is. But to see him be able to really dominate games with his legs is really a special thing.
That's really great. And you possibly have the highest number of college tight ends in any program that I've seen that I have seen in my time covering high school football in the state of Missouri.
Well, we've got tight ends, that's for sure, and we like to use them, and they're all pretty good. Mason Scornia, he's really good as a senior. and he's versatile. He can do everything. And Liam Russo is so explosive and athletic and long and can get downfield on you. 6'6", and the way he can run, he's an all
receiver. Yeah.
And then, Zane Schellinger has really found a role as an H-back, and he gets a lot done for us as well, but he can receive passes too. And then the guy who we still have hidden, you don't even realize is there, is the youngest Markway. Luke Markway is going to be a really good tight end, and he's coming into his own as a sophomore.
Right. And you have a guy who's bounced back out to receiver. He looked like he was going to play tight end a little bit, Colin Griffin.
Yeah.
As well.
And Colin's back out to receiver, and that's another guy that's got track speed. He's a state medalist in track. He lost a little weight to move himself back outside, and he's doing a nice job out there. He's blocking well. He's competing for balls, and he's making plays when he gets the opportunity.
And I don't usually mention him, but you have a kicker. You guys always seem to have a kicker. You have a pretty good kicker.
Well, we got a great kicker and a great punter, and what I really have is Neil Rackers as a kicking coach, and I cannot underestimate the job that Neil does for us in getting those guys ready. And Neil does a great job. He's been with me for years, came over with me from John Burroughs. But Ethan Waymuller is a tremendous kicker, and Trip Bergen is a really good punter. And the two of them have changed field position like no other football season I've been in. We are constantly pinning teams down inside the 10, inside the 5. We can make 50-yard field goals. I mean, it's an unbelievable thing in a high school game to just trot out and try a 50-yard field goal and nobody says, "Whoa, what are you doing?" We just ho-hum normal for us.
That is it's
heck of a weapon.
Changing.
Heck of a weapon, because I see so many high school games where everybody's having to go for 2 every time because they don't have a kicker, or they have to go for it on 4th down. So I thought I'd give the special teams a little love, since I don't generally talk special teams players.
Oh, for sure. Well, I'm sure they appreciate it.
There you go. Describe to me the transition, you coming in from when you first got there till now. I've noticed it, but talk about that. You guys have really bought into what you're doing since you came over from Burroughs.
Yeah, we came on and we were the third staff in 3 years, and I brought a bunch of new faces and a bunch of new ideas. And it took some time. I felt like the second half of last year, we really had figured some things out between the coaches and the kids. And we went on a nice run and ended up in the Final Four and took a home loss to Lee Summit North, and they were real good. But that left a taste in our mouth that we thought, man, they just got us real good at home. And that never feels good going into the off season. And we were able to challenge the kids that were coming back, and they responded. And I think right now we've got a really cohesive team, a group of guys that loves getting together and loves working with each other and wants to play with each other. And that's always a recipe for success at football at any level, but especially high school.
That's very noticeable. And now I've spoken about it. I'm not surprised that you guys are 7-0. When I contacted you about your team, and when I wrote a story about your team, hey, I see the athletes there. I know the coaching. I see what you're doing. Not a surprise. Are you surprised that you got none of your players are surprised at all? They bought into it. Are you surprised?
I think we all knew we had it in us. The question was, can we do it? And it's sort of like riding a bike. When you're a kid and you go out to ride a bike, you can't ride a bike and you think, can I do this, or am I just going to fall down and skin my knees? And we managed to do it. We took our knee skins last year, and we can do it now. And we know the kind of team we want to be, and we try to live up to that standard every day. Some days we fall short. We're humans, but then we try to love each other and get back to where we want to be. And so we think we can beat everybody. I mean, I don't know if that's true or not, if we actually can, but we sure think we can. And that's the mindset you have to have if you want to be a championship club.
I think that's the biggest challenge as a coach at any level is, right, are you going to play at an optimal level of what your team is, right? I mean, you know the weapons you have, and what you guys are able to do when everything syncs up, and it's just a matter of getting that to actually occur, right? And getting it to go 7 times in a row in high school is no easy task. And you guys,
no easy task.
Yeah, I mean, and you're right. It is that mindset. And we've had multiple coaches that JP has interviewed throughout the season where the two common themes are never seem satisfied, right, even after wins. But there is that theme of, hey, we'll take on all comers, right? And I think that's, you guys are living to that same creed and motto right now.
Well, that's what we're trying to be, and we try to be our best every day. You know, our practices are competitive every single day, and we try to keep our guys healthy and not take a lot of big hits in practice. But it's hard when you got Caleb Merritt over there. You know, he's gonna hit somebody, and we get after it every single day, and that only makes us better.
Right. I would be remiss if I let you get out of here without asking you about a young man by the name of Caleb Merritt, who I covered, scouted when he was at John Burroughs. Heck of a player. Currently a Wyoming Cowboy. How's he doing?
There and saw him this weekend. Got a big win against Fresno, and he's excited. His team's in first place, and going to try to get a win over Air Force this week. He's on the depth chart. He's playing some. He got his first catch a couple weeks ago of the season. To me, I'm so excited. He's blocking really well, right? And that's always where we put our priority in the Merritt house is on blocking. And he's blocking well. He's being a great teammate, and he's learning a ton up there.
I tell you what, he was a young man who played 7-on-7 with us at Boom, and he was just always so athletic and just
great speed.
Like a spring. He could explode at any moment. And I know that he's a guy just always positive attitude, just a fun guy, great teammate, to all the kids. And I think I'm seeing, just following him on social media, I mean, he's enjoying the college experience. You can tell. And I was watching that game. That was a huge win for them. I mean, Fresno was no easy task, and they got him.
No, they were so excited in Laramie, and
so there, Coach.
We lost him.
I think we might have lost you, Coach. Appreciate you joining us, Coach. Coach Merritt, just what a great guy.
Yep.
Just a great guy doing it the right way, and you're happy for his success because he is such a good person.
Yeah, I mean that's a big jump. I mean he brought his program and a lot of those coaches over from Burroughs, and he's added new guys. Alfonso Scott's a guy that he mentioned who was a kid that I've been doing this long enough that he was a young man. We trained as a young man. So, and it's cool seeing those guys coaching at the high school level now.
That's pretty wild. So yeah, just great to see that happen. And there's a lot of those coaches popping up around the St. Louis area and around the state where they're just good people who get good things done.
Yep.
So we're going to switch gears a little bit, go from Coach Merritt to another a player on another undefeated team. Jackson Cantwell joins us from Nixa, Missouri. Jackson, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. Just happy to be here.
Thanks for joining us. So your Nixa Eagles are 7-0. We just talked with Coach John Merritt from DeSmet, who are 7-0. I think you guys are like 3-4 in the latest media rankings statewide. Tell us about your 7-0 Eagles.
I mean, we've been doing a pretty good job so far, taking care of business. We've played a lot of relatively tough conference opponents. I mean, Webb City and Joplin are definitely up there in the Class 5 and 6 rankings, and I think we've just been trying to put some stuff together week by week and become a pretty good team so far. Been running the ball pretty well on the offensive side of things and stopping people from doing it on the defensive side. I mean, it's been pretty good.
That Joplin game is becoming quite the rivalry. Has it always been that, or have you seen that just happen over the past few years?
I think the past few years is kind of where it's gotten to a little bit higher degree for sure. I know a lot of the time in 2010s, Ozark was one of our biggest rivals, and a lot of the other schools in COC were kind of up there. I feel like nowadays Joplin is definitely at the top for sure. I think it's that our school like Republic could also be up there, but Joplin's definitely one of our biggest ones right now.
Right. You guys lost some really talented players last year. And so it was a little surprising to some people that you guys came back and are as good. You return one of the top seniors in the state in Spencer Ward, who's just a heck of a player offensively and defensively. Who are some of the other guys on your team who've been helping you guys reach that 7-0?
Well, I think first of all, I mean, even though losing those guys, I think we returned enough depth and enough good players from the underclassmen from beforehand. I think we just were kind of destined to have a better team. I just didn't think many people noticed actually lost Kale and Ramon and those guys. But I feel like a lot of the guys we have right now, I mean, defensively, we got guys like Jaden Antonelli and a couple other guys like on the defensive line and our linebackers that are stepping up really well for us right now, making plays. Offensively, I mean, joining me on the offensive line, we got Jacob Lyle and a couple other offensive linemen that are blocking super well. He'll probably be an all-stater. We'll probably have a couple more guys sprinkled in that all-conference and all-area list within that. We got two good running backs, Dylan Burrow and Malachi Ryder running the ball right now. They've probably got about as many yards combined as Ramon had last year, which I mean that's pretty cool considering Ramon was a very good running back. We got those two guys kind of swapping out for us.
Right.
overall, I think we're just putting it together with all those people.
Right.
Sure.
Their offensive line is massive. I mean, and how big do you guys go? I mean, you're 6'8". What's your weight up to now?
About 300 pounds, I'd say.
6'8", 300. So
and how old are you?
15. 15.
Yeah.
Wow.
He's just a growing boy, Matt.
Yeah.
just a growing boy. So Jacob's another big guy, another 6'3" guy, and the other guys are all good sized guys as well. So I'm sure Malachi and the other back really enjoy getting the run behind you guys.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be lying if I said they were at a huge size advantage themselves. I mean, they're pretty small guys. They're quick and good at hitting gaps.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like they're a pretty good pair to run behind us. I mean, I think the average for our O-line right now, I think is about 6'3", 285, which for high school is pretty solid. I'll say that. And then we got those little dudes that are running super fast behind us and just hitting gaps, creating space. I mean, it's working pretty well.
That's awesome. So you are 15 years old, class of 2026, 6'8", 300 pounds, and pretty much every school in the country is recruiting. Is that correct?
I mean, I don't know if every single school, but I feel like there's probably a pretty fair amount right now.
Go ahead and run off.
It's been pretty fun hearing from all of them for sure.
Yeah, run off some of your offers and some of the schools that you're hearing from.
I mean, some of the bigger ones right now are Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Mizzou. There's probably a lot more in there that I'm forgetting right now, but it's been great hearing from all these people.
And what schools have you actually made game day visits to, or practice?
This year I've game day visited Arkansas, Oklahoma, and Mizzou.
And you were just at Mizzou this past weekend.
Yeah, I was just at Mizzou this past weekend for sure.
So how did that go? Huge game, great environment, sellout crowd. What was that like?
I also forgot to mention Nebraska. Sorry, but it was a pretty cool environment for sure. I mean, they were super loud there, pretty much all game, and it was a great game to watch. Honestly, I mean, they came pretty close. They had a lot of good stuff being put together. They can throw that ball. Mizzou can. I'll tell you that. Bird and Theo Weiss. I mean, they were just torching them all night. Pass protection was pretty good up front all night as well. LSU had some good stuff too, though, going on with their offense, and I think some of the defensive stuff they did was kind of what broke it open, though.
So you're 15 years old, and you're hearing from Alabama, Georgia, Mizzou, Arkansas, all these big SEC schools. How does that feel? What is that like? You seem to be handling it really well.
I mean, I've just kind of taken it in stride, just tried to kind of put it behind me and keep getting better whenever the time's necessary, but at the same time, just realize, I mean, it's a pretty cool opportunity, so try and make the most of it.
When I talked to you last year following the Joplin game, you know, I asked you, I'm like, so any schools, anything going on? You're like, no, nothing yet. And then boom, you just exploded as the season and the off season went on.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty unprecedented, honestly. It's kind of funny actually. Whenever the week after that, I went on my first visit to Kansas State. They were showing us around the place, like kind of what you do for some of your bigger guys that are coming in. And my parents, like, they thought it was weird. They were showing us. They were like, "Look, you don't have to do this for us. Like, we know you got other people coming in, so you guys do not have to do this." They're like, "Oh, trust me, we insist." And then we were just talking to people. Like coaches just kept coming up, and before you knew it, like Coach Kleeman was there, and we didn't know who he was at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But eventually, the head coaches started coming up and talking to us. It was crazy for sure.
That's a really important point as you go through the recruiting process. I mean, and levels of being at someone's game day visit versus being at a visit where you're touring, and the level of communication from different coaches is a pure indication that they are wildly interested, right? Because there's too many kids there to do that with as they're going along. But one thing I would say that I don't know you personally, but I've seen and observed you online. We talk about kids like developing and building. Some of the things I've seen of you, just you're constantly working, and I think that that's something that is, going to guide you very well through this journey. And I think that obviously you have parents that are athletes, and it sounds like you're getting some great guidance. But what are some of the lifts that you have some impressive strength for such a guy at your age and size. You're not just a big guy; you actually can put it together with your movement as well as strength. So, what's your bench press up to one of these days? I saw it not that long ago. It was pretty darn impressive.
405 for 4 was my best over the summer. My strength took a little bit of a hit, kind of going into fall camp and the regular season. I've been trying to get back, and right now I'm probably just about that, like back at that again. But during the season, I'm probably not gonna be progressing a whole bunch. So I'm probably gonna be a 405 for 4 until off season.
That's solid.
So you mentioned your parents. Go ahead for those who don't know who your dad is.
My dad is Christian Cantwell, 5-time world champion, Olympic silver medalist in the shot put. Definitely one of the better shot putters to come through the world during the 2000s. It was. It sounds like it was pretty cool. I didn't get to experience that because I wasn't alive yet, but people are saying it's pretty cool.
Right, and so you've kind of picked that up because you're also a track athlete.
I've been doing my best. That's what I'll say. I've been just trying to do what they've been doing.
What are some of your PRs?
I threw 64 foot, 3 3/4 in the shot this year at state. And in discus, I've thrown 191 foot 4. Yeah.
That's pretty impressive for a 15-year-old.
Yeah.
I've just been trying to, I mean, it kind of, I didn't know exactly how well I'd carry over to the high school weight coming from junior high, but I think a lot of stuff like I did with technique over the summer helped me a lot going into that.
So kind of just describe your workout and your development, the training that you do, both skill training for offensive line and as well as your workouts. Is your dad behind most of that?
I mean, my dad doesn't do really, honestly, anything for football for me anymore besides like weight room.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the on-field stuff. I mean, I work with my school coaches. I kind of have like a group of people that I kind of talk to a little bit. I know a few good Midwest prospects right now. I'm working with Chris Gomez. If you know who that is, I work with him some.
Out of Kansas City.
Yeah, out of Kansas City. He's trained with like Armand Membu, Caden Green, a lot of names like that. I work with him some. So on the football side of things, that's a lot of who I'll go to for that. On the track side, it's a lot of it's my parents and sometimes just me and my one of my good teammates. We just kind of work together on that.
So mom was a track athlete as well?
Yeah, she was a track athlete. She doesn't really coach me at all, but she did a good amount of that back in the day as well. We
got to give her some recognition though, because it's mom.
Yeah, she was a I believe indoor world champ whenever she was in college. Went to 2000 Olympics, got 4th place there, I believe. I'm going to forget something. She's going to probably be like, how'd you not know that? That's
right. There's a lot of kids right now who are going to see this who are very jealous of who your parents are.
I mean, I picked my parents very well.
You did.
Yes, very
so much on that.
You did a good job. So I'm assuming that you're a long way off from the decision-making process as far as recruiting goes.
Oh, yeah. I'm probably going to be, if you've seen what Ryan Wingo's doing, I'm probably going to do something similar to that. Probably. Because, I mean, how I kind of feel is I don't really want to commit somewhere and then feel bad about it. So I'll probably end up committing and signing somewhat soon. So it'll probably I'll probably just kind of enjoy it for right now. And then once I start becoming a official recruit, I'll start narrowing it down some. Probably be one of the later guys just to make sure I'm locked in on a decision.
So you talked to Ryan and some of the other well-known recruits in the state?
Well, I don't know if I haven't gotten to talk to Ryan, but I've talked to a lot of the other guys. I mean, I played against Williams, and I've heard from him and some of his teammates a little bit. I've talked to a lot of other people like from in my conference, like Whit Hafer and some of the other Mizzou guys. So I know a fair amount of these people. He's a Mizzou commit.
Right. So since both your parents are Mizzou alums, does that give Mizzou a leg up? I know a lot of people ask you that, so I just wanted to give you the opportunity to talk about that.
So my mom actually went to SMU out of Texas.
Oh, okay.
So she's not a Mizzou alum. My dad is. That's always kind of something gets talked about a little bit. I know he would love to see me go to Mizzou, but at the end of the day, like what he's kind of realized is if I honestly, he'd be okay with me going just about anywhere from what it sounds like.
Right. And you're going to be totally open. Anything particular you're looking for in a school when you get closer to narrowing it down?
I mean, obviously a great football program, good head coach, you have position coaches and stuff. I know position coaches change so often, but I'm going to be in the room with those guys like 99% of the time. So it's nice to have a good relationship with them. Obviously good culture, academics, if I can get that as well. I mean, there's a fair amount, but I feel like to a certain point, every single Division I school is going to have that. So it's going to be a tough decision.
And that's something that we've talked about before with the position coaches. We talk about with recruits and recruiting a lot. And so we talk about, knowing who your position coach is going to be and how important that is. So,
one of the things is, as I've been doing this for 20 plus years, something that goes into the recruiting, especially when you find guys like yourself that are big guys or big level recruit. Something that I throw out there is look at the guys that they're starting at the position you play, and look at the lineage they've had at that position, and you want to make sure that you look and they play guys at your size, right? Like they don't it's very interesting. Like being a high level guy, like you still have to worry about fit, and that sounds crazy, but we went through it with Miles McVay when he went down to Alabama, and it was. He was constantly reminded by their staff that he reminded them of X number of players that were there, but he also matched the exact same size and skill parameters that they were looking for. So, I think that's something to throw out there to you is make sure they look, the guys that are starting at that position, their premier guys look, that they are that long, because some guys, that's just the way it works. The position coaches love a certain mold. And you just want to make sure that you are the guy that they're pouring every little bit of energy into. And, from a selfish perspective, getting everything you can out of your experience.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I've talked to a lot of coaches kind of tell me like coming out of high school, I remind them of a certain player they have on their roster.
Mm-hmm.
And usually, I feel like more often than not, it feels like a pretty good comparison, from what I've seen. I know Stacy Searle specifically said Andrew Whitworth, whenever he was a O-line coach at LSU, he felt like I kind of reminded him a little bit of that type of build. Penn State talked about for Olu Fashanu, the guys he's going to go pretty high this year in the draft. Talked about him a little bit, kind of having some similarities to me, and a few others. It's definitely it's almost something I think about a little bit, because there's a lot of places that don't really I don't know. I like going to places where they're playing a lot of guys that are kind of doing what I'm doing. Yeah,
I think that is really good advice, and you clearly have done your research, and I'm really impressed listening to you talk.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, you. I would assume you sound like you're a pretty good student as well. From just
I've been doing a pretty good job, I think, so far.
Yeah.
Are you going to play basketball this season, Jackson?
I figure I might as well ride it out until the end of high school. I can only play for so long, so I might as well just take the last couple of years.
Have you found that playing basketball has translated well to football with your footwork?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's a lot of what kind of helped me make the transition to begin with. I know another thing that you're talking about, what coaches kind of look for their mold. What I've found out is these guys love guys that play other sports, like track guys, basketball guys, wrestlers, because they mold those people into football players. It's hard to mold somebody that's only really done one thing. That's not guys that are just football guys sometimes can lack a little bit of foot speed and stuff, just because football doesn't really sometimes translate that as much, doing it for a while. But oftentimes those basketball guys and wrestlers and stuff, they can be natural with it whenever they come over.
Yeah.
And go around. There's a lot of just football guys do that too, but more often than not,
I think you're right, though.
You can get more projects and stuff out of the other guys, and they can still have a lot of upside.
Showing you're a well-rounded athlete and showing your athletic versatility and things you can do really does help.
Yeah, we've had that conversation. Football is probably the only sport that you could not focus on most of your youth developmental years, be a great athlete, and then come over to the game and they mold you into a football player. It's the sport of athletes, right? So what you just nailed exactly what we've talked about many times on this show.
Yeah, and that's why football is so unique. You can take there's a lot of guys that just kind of come in as projects and they become really good players because of being molded. So it's definitely unique in that regards, and I feel like that's kind of why I ended up being a little bit successful to begin with, because I didn't have much technique really until this year, to be honest, with offensive line. So it's I definitely had to work a little bit to get there. I'm still trying to put some pieces together, but it feels like a lot of that project stuff's kind of becoming more of a reality at this point.
Right. So who do you guys have next, Jackson?
Pretty big game for us. We're playing Republic. They're a team in our conference.
Yeah. James Rexroth and those guys.
Yeah, they got a pretty good squad this year from what it seems like. We just got to come out and just do our job, I guess.
Right. Well, good luck with the rest of the year. I think you're going to run into some familiar faces that you guys have played in the past in the playoffs, and good luck. And we appreciate you joining us, Jackson.
All right, thank you guys for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Yes, sir.
We'll have you back for sure.
100%.
All right, have a great week.
All right, you too.
All right, bye-bye. Such an impressive young man. Can you believe that? I look at look at the screen, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, really refreshing. I deal with high school kids every day.
Yes.
That was like talking to an adult.
It was like talking to an adult.
A well-seasoned adult, not just an adult, and man, he is
very impressive.
He is definitely drawing in what he's learning, and he's listening to people. And obviously he's got positive role models at home that have been there and done that. But at the same time, it doesn't also sound like they're crazy over the top, they're supportive. But man, he is impressive.
He's very impressive, and you can see why he's being so heavily recruited. And it's not just because he's 6'8", 300 pounds and one of the best athletes, regardless of class in the country. It's because of that as well. And that's something that kids need to pay attention to. You need to be, well-spoken. You need to be polite. You need to be knowledgeable about things. And that, along with your athleticism and your football ability, will make you a heavily recruited guy.
And not only heavily recruited, heavily heavily focused on the NIL. I mean, he is going to be a commodity.
Spokesperson.
He is a commodity for whatever program he goes to, and for himself, he's going to be able to capitalize. And he is, I mean, again, I do this all the time, talking with kids, and we got remarkable kids that come in our building, but especially when you find the high level guys, I mean, he is a very polished young man.
He really is. You'd vote for Jackson. You'd vote for Jackson Cantwell.
I really like it.
There's politicians who don't speak as well as Jackson.
Correct.
And it's great that his parents are going to let him just make the decision on his own.
That's awesome.
And, he kind of downplays. He's a humble young guy as well.
Hey, SMU is where mom's from, and now they're well funded. A couple $1 billion that they've had pledged to support for their new venture. Into what do they go? The ACC.
Yeah.
And $2 billion private money going into their their program.
That's not bad. That's not bad. That's our kind of money.
Yeah, of course. That's what we get for the show.
That's what we have. That's the kind of money we have. But no, just another great kid, and that's what we're seeing develop here in the state of Missouri and across the region, in Kansas and in Illinois as well.
Yeah, we don't take the back seat. I mean, population wise, we might, but producing high level athletes, we certainly
And it's getting better.
Yeah,
it's getting better all the time when you see that. So high school season, let me run off. He's talking about they have a big game against Republic. The unbeaten teams still in Class 6 are DeSmet, who we had Coach Merritt on, which is nice. And we had another 7-0, player from a 7-0 team, Jackson Cantwell. Lee Summit North, who's ranked number 1 in the state, of course, is still number 1. Now they're playing another unbeaten team, Lee Summit West, on Friday. So
that should be fun.
So if you have a chance, you might want to get out to that game. Oak Park, which is a team a lot of people don't know about, also in the Kansas City area, have a D1 running back who's getting attention from Kansas State, as well as some other places. Trayvon Pankey, and then you have Seckman. And we've spoken about Seckman before, and you've mentioned them about their, just what a great little program
they have definitely turned the corner on that program. I mean, we talked about it, I think, a week or two ago. That win over SLU last year really put them over the hump, so to speak. And they had some lean years, and now they're definitely rolling. And they have a great junior program feeding them.
Yes.
So it's a really good program.
And what really surprises me is the number of athletes down there. It didn't seem to be in the past, and now all of a sudden,
I mean, you go a little bit further south, Hillsboro is just stacked.
Oh, and they have a huge game this week against number 1 in Class 5, Cardinal Ritter.
And that was a heck of a game last year. I would not take them lightly. They are a very solid team. They do great stuff in the off season. A lot of their kids work and develop, and we see a ton of their players come in and train in our facility.
The Brown brothers,
which is really funny. I got a text last week. Chase Sucharski, whose dad's the head coach, sent me a picture of him when he must have been 8, 9, playing flag football with us back in the days. Like, I was a dog back then, and I'm still a dog, which he is.
He is.
He is. I mean, he's a guy that's probably a little under recruited, but I think when it's all said and done,
somebody's going to get very lucky.
Yeah,
somebody's going to get very lucky. Very physically developed guy, can catch the ball, runs good routes,
playing some defense,
playing defense. He could play on the other side of the ball. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And so the Brown brothers, Peyton and Preston, one of the top 2025 quarterbacks in the region and state.
Yep.
That a lot of people don't know about. Everybody knows about the name guys that we've talked about. Davidson, Boyd. He's
up there.
He's up there, and he's a dual threat guy.
Mm-hmm. And just great, hardworking kids.
Yep.
I think we'll spend more time on that 2025 class of quarterbacks. It's solid. It's really solid.
It's honestly the best that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Never seen anything like it.
You almost have to go back to like a class of like when the Demos, Trevor McDonough, Thomas Militello, that crew, when there was like 4 guys that were Division I guys.
Oh yeah, it's beyond that. In fact, before the season, I tweeted that there's a possibility of up to 7 or possibly 8 D1 quarterbacks in that 2025 class, and that's never been
Well, the good thing is we train the vast majority of them, so get to know them, and they're good kids, and we'll have opportunities to talk to them. Maybe we have them come in as a group one day.
I think we should. I think we should
fun.
come in, have them talk as a group, have them stand in front of the green screen, and do a little photo shoot. I think that'd be fun. Speaking of photo shoots, did you see where the NCAA is doing the legislation that they're going to do away with the photo shoots?
Yeah, I think that is a really good thing, and I think it blends into some of the conversations we've been having weekly. So the NCAA comes in and says, hey, the only time you can take photo shoots or official photo shoots is on official visits. Yeah. Right before. So what was happening is kids would go down to these visits, an unofficial visit or just a campus visit. Yeah. And they'd go into the photo booth and take pictures and
put on a uniform,
do all this stuff and play costume and have their brothers, and
cosplay
and people coming in and wearing, putting people in poses and
it wasn't just the players. No. You would see family members,
brothers, sisters,
putting on the uniform, and it got a little out of control.
And and I think it's interesting. I think I was on a show the other day with Pat Ruffino, and he brought it up. He said he thinks it's the baby Gronk effect, and I think that might have been the straw that broke the camel's back. He went to all the big SEC schools this off season, was taking pictures, but I think it will also help kids trim down who's really interested in them, not because because a lot of kids would go to those visits and believe that hey, I'm being recruited, or they would live in a fantasy land that hey, I got my picture in Mizzou or Georgia or whatever their respective local school is. It's one thing to go on a game day visit, have that experience, be on the field, get to be with other recruits. They may or may not be they may not know who you are. But you're in that environment and you start getting pictures, you start to believe that you are that guy. But if you're not having, as Jackson said, when you're not there, if multiple coaches aren't coming over and talk to you, it doesn't mean it's over, but it doesn't mean it started. I can tell you that. So I really believe that this is a good rule. It's going to tamp down some of the extra stuff. But, for instance, on the 7-on-7 teams, a lot of them in the offseason will go to college visits. Mm-hmm. And then those college visits,
see a lot of that.
They'll go, and some kids will get to go and get photos. But here's the tough thing. The tough thing is for instance, we're at Purdue last year. Only so many kids can get their pictures taken, and it's the kids they really want, right? So then that causes some issues within the team and things like that. So I agree with the NCAA on this one. Oftentimes, I'm not a huge fan of their legislation, but I think this is probably a good step.
Right. Exactly. And so that definitely caught my attention. Amongst the things that they do, that was up there. Yeah. And, I'm impressed with how they did that. So 7-on-7, you mentioned 7-on-7, a bunch of tryouts coming up. Did you want to touch on that a little bit more?
We'll start getting November 12th. We'll have Midwest Boom as our 7-on-7. So I think I talked a few weeks ago. So we started years ago with the St. Louis Rams in 2010, I think, was when we first did our first 2010 or 11, did our first NFL 7-on-7 team out of St. Louis before anybody was doing 7-on-7 in the region. And then we morphed that into Midwest Boom, which is probably one of the largest and best 7-on-7 organizations in the country. It's 100+ tournament wins, 400+ guys playing in college, 100+ guys playing in the NFL. I mean, C.D. Lamb, Kyren Williams, Tony Adams, Brady Cook, a guy is a guy, J.J. McCarthy. I mean, guys, who's who of guys in college football or even in the NFL are guys that have come through the organization. And I think what's cool about it is the 7-on-7 does give an opportunity for kids to do, work in the off season. I think the evolution of it though is that, the downside is it costs money, right? Yes. You have to travel. And you have to be realistic about what you're getting into it. It's one thing to go win a tournament or go play in a tournament out of town. But if you're doing it because you believe that it's going to get you recruited, that's not really how it works. You can get recruited. I think our number one thing is that we tell the families and kids is that it's going to prepare you for the off season, camps and the Lindenwoods, mega camps, summer camps. So you're going to roll into the season to be prepared because we don't have a full spring season. We do have a modified spring, but we're not playing like they do down in Georgia and Texas and Florida.
Yeah. I mean, what's important is, and that's why it's important to get with a good organization. And there's a lot of them. Yep. There's a lot of them on both sides of the state. Empire's a good one. I'm not, if I forget somebody, I'm not trying to not mention names purposely.
Yeah, there's just so many of them.
There's so many of them now. Yeah. Baseball. Epic and Empire over there come to mind. Yep. There's a new one, STF. I'll talk about you next time.
There's quite a few over there.
Oh, yeah. Flight here. Yep. Boom. I mean, there's, and
there's different levels of 7-on-7 too. So there's like regional tournament or regional like leagues, if you will, like that, they're a little bit more manageable for teams. And then you get into some of the national tournaments that are a little bit more difficult. And then you have like the OT7, which is the real big one right now. That's the hot one. And obviously we've seen leagues come and go. Like IMG was in it with NFA and they got out of it. And we used to go down there all the time and play in their national championship at IMG, and that's gone. So, some of these tournaments are not run the best. I mean, some of them are.
Some are scheduled and then they just disappear.
Yeah, they just disappear or they move the location. Right. But the OT7 is really the hot one, and the Midwest Boom is the only Midwest team that has an OT7 team. So I don't know some of those higher level guys typically want to go play out of state with another organization or something like that, because so they can get access to that. So, one of the things is we encourage is to stay closer into that region with guys that you're going to be playing with potentially in college and competing against in college. But boom, at our tryout, there'll be kids actually trying out for OT7 to make that team. So we have had kids, and we have a long history. Brady Cook, Kyren Williams, Jordan Johnson, CJ Boone, all those guys went and, they would play tournaments with the Chicago guys and kids from around Michigan and Indiana. They would all be in Wisconsin. They'd all be playing as a super team, if you will. So there's that ability. And then just know what you're getting into. I mean,
yes, I
think the cost is probably the biggest issue with families. Is some of these teams are ranging from $500 to $1,000, $1,200 for a, 8 tournament to 5 tournament season. But, you got to take into account that you have to travel and that, return on investment, could be better sometimes for some families, could be, that's no problem. Other families, it's probably better suited staying in town and training. I mean, realistically, because by the time you travel, to Tennessee or Kansas or Nebraska or Indianapolis, that's $500 to $1,000 for a 3-day weekend. And the games, I mean, a lot of people don't know this. I mean, you're talking 20-minute games. You're guaranteed 4 games at most of these tournaments. So
it goes quick.
It goes real fast. It goes really fast. That's the one. I guess that's my one beef with it, because you travel all that way,
long
those
way,
little bitty games, and refereeing is not the best at those, because a lot of the guys are not necessarily football referees doing it. Some are, some aren't, and then some are not familiar with the game or the rules of that particular circuit. So that there's some frustration with that as well.
Right. Oh, absolutely. But I will say, I do find that there's a direct correlation. There's 2 things that I find there's a direct correlation with the increase in you're seeing college caliber prospects being developed in the state of Missouri. And one of them is training, such as with Boom. The kids are getting good guys. I know Jackson Cantwell mentioned Chris Gomez over in Kansas City. He's the Jamie Pond.
Yep.
Jamie's the best in the business. No offense to Chris, but he's the Jamie Pond in that area. It works with offensive linemen, like you said. He worked with Caden Green and Membo.
They've had some really good guys come out of Kansas City.
Absolutely. And I would say, besides the training, is 7-on-7. I think you're seeing more skill guys, better developed quarterbacks, like that, because of 7-on-7. It gives them an outlet. It gives them a chance to work on skills, and that's really what you got to look at it for.
Yeah, and I think as it evolves, you're going to see different iterations of it too, where it's not as much travel and it's more internal in the city. There's some different things we've worked with and we've done over the years. We used to, we did in 2007, 8, 9, we had a 5v5 indoor league for high schools. Vashon and who else? CBC was in it. Lindbergh, a bunch of guys back then. It was a really good time, really fun. And, things like that, I think also to service those local kids can just be equally as valuable as far as competition and letting everybody be able to participate, because, the cost can become, a stumbling block for a lot of families.
Right. So seeing a lot of those tryouts going to be happening, and make sure that you and your parents pay close attention to what you're being told, and you pick good people who, have your best interests and will help you, become a better player when you're doing that.
Yeah, and I think looking at lineage and who's done it, who's gone through the program, what their success has been. Obviously, no, future or past success doesn't indicate that you're going to be a 5-star recruit.
Right. No.
But, at the end of the day, there is certain pathways where you can see guys that have done it and they've gone. And we typically have a pretty darn good track record. And at the end of the day, winning in 7-on-7 is important, but it's also, it is what it is, right? But I think the bigger thing is development. And with our guys, we want to train them. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what we want to do, because we know that the developmental side of the training can then be applied in the 7-on-7 games, obviously, ultimately for their tackle seasons.
Right. And like you said before, the practices are probably more beneficial to you than the actual 7-on-7 tournaments.
Correct.
So looking forward to that. I'm telling you what, they're getting earlier and earlier, the tryouts.
Yes.
If you're still playing football, right, in early November, then you're not going to show up for that.
Yeah, that would be highly ill-advised, right?
But I'm seeing,
you should not be doing any tryouts if your team's still playing.
No, but I'm seeing earlier tryouts, and I'm seeing 3 or 4 tryouts in some cases across the state or region.
Yep.
So that's interesting. Mizzou football, right? We talked about it. Nobody, I think, expected an undefeated season from Mizzou, and there's no shame. Unfortunately, I'm seeing some people who want to revert back to their old habits of laying blame on people. Oh, so-and-so lost us the game, and I see it from people who write about it for a living. And they're just falling back into their lazy habits of wanting to blame.
I think it was a competitive game. I mean, Jackson said it really well. I mean, Mizzou did very well throwing the ball. They ran the ball well. Obviously, a few errors. A few times we could not stop Jaden Daniels with his feet.
Who a lot of people think is the best quarterback that they're.
Yeah. I think ultimately that was the difference. I mean, he was the difference because they ran him, and he ran consistently. I mean, he threw well, but his feet really got us. And
right.
At the end of the day, Cook have had that run with the interceptions. All those, that always comes to an end, right? You're not going to play college football now.
Right.
But the first pick that he threw, that was an unbelievable. I mean, I think they knew by formation what was coming. They did a little zone blitz and dropped him out. And he was right in line with the ball. I mean, it was just a hell of a play.
Right. And so, like I said, no shame. It was a 49-39 loss. Cody Schrader, the usual guys, Cody Schrader, Luther Burden, they did really well. Yep. People like to lay blame rather than just be like, hey, heck of a game, we'll get them next time.
Yeah. And now they're on to the next, right? You got
Kentucky
on
the road. Seems like Mizzou's played like every game at home so far this year.
Yeah. And I was telling someone the other day, like, this Kentucky, we're due for one, right? We got a couple bad calls a few years ago in the back with the phantom pass interference to stretch the game and lose. And the punter last year running the snap 50-yard over his head, and just a nightmare. But Mizzou's due for a win, right? I mean, they're go down there, and I think we owe Kentucky.
Yeah, I think Mizzou's like 7-4 since joining the SEC against Kentucky, and always play Mizzou tough no matter what's going on.
Yes.
And Mark Stoops stepped in a little bit. I guess he was asking for more money for the program to get better players or something this week. Did you see that?
No, I did not.
Yeah, he was asking for more money, and so people were upset because he's a highly paid college coach and more money, but that's college football.
It's the world that's the world that the college football has been created. I mean, that it was big money before NIL. It's big money. Today it's bigger money. I'm not sure. Did you see the story this week with Utah? Did you see the players? I did. So all the players were, and I don't know all the details, but every scholarship player received a brand new Dodge Ram truck.
Oh,
so
wow.
They did a whole video. They walked them out to the field, and they had a bunch of trucks out there. And these guys, through an NIL partner, got brand new $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 trucks.
You had to hide that back.
I mean, yeah, I think SMU got a death sentence for that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, now the whole team's getting them.
Yeah.
So that is.
But you would see guys driving around in certain like Trans Ams back in the day. It tells you how old I am. There'd be guys driving around in Trans Ams in school colors or whatever. Or
yeah, that happened.
I said, now it's just
happening
out in the open.
Yeah.
So, out in the open. So I don't know if that's positive or
I don't know. I mean, I want to know who foot the bill on that.
Yeah.
That is one heck of a gift.
Yeah. Hey, you can sponsor on the Football 360 show. Contact.
We'll drive your Dodge Ram around.
Megs at football360show.com. You want to advertise on the Football 360 show? You're a car dealership like that. Come on. We're happy to do it.
We can get you access to the NIL deals with other kids, right? There you go. Come on.
You can also reach us on social media at Football 360 Show on Twitter and Instagram. And my personal one is JP Rock MO, as in abbreviation for the state, on Twitter, and JP Rock Scouts you on Instagram. And yours, Matt, is
Elite Football on Twitter, and then on the Instagram it is Elite Football Academy.
So we were talking about the blame game. As far as I see it with Brady Cook, and I hate to just call it by name, but it is what it is. And you have a bunch of fans and people want to try to lay blame for the loss. And I don't know if you saw James Franklin's tweet.
Oh, I did.
Do you have it?
I don't have it, but I mean, I can.
So I have it right here. I have it right here with me. And awesome. So this is what James Franklin, former Mizzou quarterback, tweeted out. It was really nice. I mean, it's very long, so I don't know that I'll read the whole thing. But he goes on to say in his tweet, he says, I had the opportunity to come home to the zoo yesterday. It's the third game I've been back since I finished playing there in 2013. Partly because of playing in the CFL and becoming a dad, but mainly because the 5 years after I finished playing, I felt bitter about my experience at Mizzou. It was a combination of the injuries I had and not feeling welcomed as the quarterback. Now, I covered them regularly, covered the beat for both Fox Sports Midwest and Scout.com at that time. I can attest to that. So he says, I did the best I could to keep a smile on the outside with an unhealthy dose of tears, confusion, and anger on the inside. As I've gotten older and actually coming back, it's helped me appreciate and realize even more that the weight I had been feeling wasn't exactly how everyone felt about me. At 18, 19, 20, and 21, and growing into adulthood on a stage in front of the world, it's hard to not feel that weight. I've been watching our quarterback, Brady Cook, and have seen some similarities in our experiences, and I assume some feelings too. I think Brady's doing a better at quarterback than I did, and has been accomplishing more than I was able to do. And he's done that feeling rejected at times from his own. That is a low feeling. Now, I saw that is a low feeling. And we've talked about that. And I got to see that closely covering the Mizzou beat when Frank was there. And couldn't have been a nicer guy. Very, very much a young man of faith, relied on his faith a lot, wore it on his sleeve, which, you were in college. Young guys don't necessarily are about that. So there was that. There was a quarterback competition between him and Tyler Gabbert. Yep. And some of the upperclassmen were friends with Blaine. And so there was a division. And so he was a very talented quarterback.
Yep. Yes, he was.
So I thought that was interesting. And he was able to relate his experience to what Brady's gone through.
And I saw Brady's response as how I was drawn into just reading that post. And Brady, I think, said, hey, I looked up to you. And obviously being a young Mizzou fan at that time, I think Brady was very probably welcomed that, right? Because I think you're living in a really under a microscope, right?
That very few people can understand.
Everybody's got their judgment. Everybody thinks they know what works best. I mean, the interesting thing is I was talking to a guy. We were talking about that pick six, and if you go back and watch at the very end, obviously that makes the score, what it looks like. And the game was much closer than what the final score indicated. But, if you look back, there was a rounded route, and it was not, it was the timing and when you're in close quarters down by the end zone, you cannot round. I mean, you can't round it out. I mean, you just can't do it. But, you look at what the response is. I think, that message from James Franklin and the message from, if you notice, Chase Daniel's been very outspoken.
Correct. Yeah.
He's finally retired and he's now, getting back to his roots. And, he shows up at the Mizzou game with a Brady Cook shirt on. And I think, to me, some of that's just the guys that in that brotherhood of that organization and guys that have worn that. Blaine's still in the NFL. He's still, working day in and day out with the Chiefs. But I think he would probably have the same exact feeling. I mean, I think there was times where he felt isolated, where you can't do anything right. I mean, he was in that competition with Blaine Dalton and, half the state saying Blaine Dalton should be the guy. I mean, it is what it is.
He went through it too.
And again, maybe it happens everywhere else, but it seems to happen quite a bit at Mizzou. And
yes,
to me, it's frustrating because I have a lot of ties to those guys, and some of those guys those direct ties to them. And a lot of people just don't understand like the pressure. Yes, they signed up for it, but at the end of the day, like most of those people don't have an ounce of that pressure there in their real life, but they're willing to apply it to a 19, 20-year-old kid. I mean, I think it's somewhat silly.
It's a very small club of people that can understand that pressure and that spotlight. And I know sitting at home on your couch in front of your 70-inch screen TV, you know that you can make the perfect throw and all the right decisions, but it's not like that.
Doesn't work that way.
Doesn't work like that.
I got interviewed last week by the Post-Dispatch about an article.
Look at you, Mr. Media. Look at what the show has done for you.
Just unreal. Just opened it all up.
Yeah, king of all media.
It was a really good, it was just good talking through. I mean, there's some really good questions and kind of going back and forth, like talking about, things about Brady. But I think if the general fan base understood, his comments a few weeks ago about it being his dream school and putting up, and dealing with the adversity and,
right.
He still threw for almost 400 yards last week. I mean, he's leading. He's up towards the top of the SEC. This is not like a slouch deal. I mean, he threw for.
He's one of the top quarterbacks in the SEC and in the nation.
Yeah, I mean, and I have buddies in the scouting world that definitely. I mean, they know who he is, and he's being scouted. I mean, it's not an accident, and he is going to have a successful career, whether it's on the football field. Whether it's the football field, then something else. I mean, he is a sharp kid. He's already graduated. I mean, but this pace, he'll have a PhD by the time he's done.
Right. But he will get an opportunity to play in the NFL.
Yeah,
so it'll be there. So enjoy it while you can, because take a look at what's behind Brady. There's no guarantees.
Correct.
What's behind Brady. So enjoy it while you can. Lindenwood had a big win. Did you get a chance to check out the Lindenwood?
Some of my coaches were over, we're watching, and one of our quarterbacks, actually, I guess the starter went down, Duggar went down, and Carter Davis, a Eureka product, came in and did really well, and they got the win.
You've been waiting for that.
He's a stud. I mean, he's a great kid. I know I'm biased. We train him. Still to this day, he works in our facility and trains kids. And
he really
hard
is.
worker.
He suffered an injury in high school.
One of the worst I've seen.
Yeah, that set him back. That really affected his recruitment. And he's come back from that and getting his opportunity.
He had a lower leg injury that was most people probably would have quit football after it.
Without doubt.
Could have been career ending, and he fought through it and got the opportunity to go to Lindenwood. And he's one of those guys that was probably recruited as a D2 guy, but he was a D1 guy.
Yes.
And he's finally put some size on. He was kind of like a couple of the other quarterbacks we've talked about, like the size issue sometimes as far as like how much mass they have on him.
Right.
He wasn't the biggest kid coming out, but he's now about 190, 195.
Yeah.
And looks the part.
You see some kids like that this year. Some kids who their best football is ahead of them because they're not physically developed yet. Can throw the heck out of the ball, very athletic. I don't want to mention names. I know you know who I'm talking about though when we talk about it. But their best football is ahead of them because they will fill out like that.
Yeah, I think the tough thing too is that especially like that middle school through like sophomore year.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times there's kids that are just have grown and outgrown other kids because of just their birth date or just where they are in the puberty cycle. But when they start getting around 16, it starts to even out, right? And those guys that are going to be the guys, you can see the skill sets even when they're little guys. You can see it, like Brett Gabbert. Brady Cook as little guys, right? 4th, 5th grade, you could tell like they were guys, like they exhibited behaviors that other kids did not.
Right.
And that's not just always on-field stuff with throwing, but it's just how they carried themselves. It's how people were attracted to them, like as leaders. I mean, I think in the competitiveness, and not just football, but other sports as well.
By 6th grade, you could see Brett was going to be the most talented at quarterback of the brothers.
Yeah. And then, then he got in a great system with Coach Pingle, and he's checking in and out of stuff. And I think that's the cool thing about junior football. Like, I mean, I'm doing it right now with my own son, and it's not always fun because he has the distinction of having a dad who does this for a living.
With you as the coach,
but skill development training and putting together a game plan are two different things. But teaching and executing, and teaching them how to check in and out of stuff, and it's fun. And the funny thing is kids at that age, it's hard because their attention spans are short, but they will pick things up faster because they don't have a lot of preconceived knowledge or notions about certain things. So like you can actually adapt them to a lot of things that, quite honestly, I mean, if you look at some of our verbiage, we do it on purpose. Like we tag everything. So it's really long play calls. It looks almost like an NFL play. You'd say, well, that's too much, but it's very descriptive. And then you can plug and play different things in and out of it. And those guys, the hope is at that age, you're developing so that when they get in someone else's system, they at least have a good enough working knowledge.
They're ahead of the game.
And Brett Gabbert had that going into high school. And then obviously Coach Pingle kept pouring into it. But I remember specifically watching him his junior and senior year. You would see him get up to the line of scrimmage, and he had watched hours of film, probably more than any of the coaches on the opposing teams. He knew what they were in. He'd let him get set up. He would check it, and then the ball would be running unopposed down the sideline. Like it's because they got in a bad look, and he saw it. They couldn't adjust it fast enough. So those are the guys that have that innate ability to take the film study, get it into the game, and then actually execute it with the weapons they have. They're dangerous.
Right. And talking about JFL, you're right. The physically developed kids, the ones that develop early, they do dominate. And you don't know if that's going to continue. The ones who dominate early that are more physically developed, a lot of times they peak.
Yeah.
And that's with what I do. I watch kids over a period of time. You'll see some kids who recruiting services will, after a freshman year, they'll be like, this is a 5-star.
Yeah.
No, man, he peaks.
Check the birthday. You got to check the birthday.
Well, you got to follow the entirety of the career, because some guys peak early. I got to watch my nephew play JFL this past week. Kid's an animal. Ethan Roberts, you're an animal out there.
Who's he play
defensive lineman. Plays for the Junior Spartans.
Very nice.
Junior Spartans, but plays both ways. Never leaves the field.
Yep.
He's just a big, very physically developed kid, and so. You say, hopefully he will continue that.
Yep.
Hopefully it's not, but there's a possibility, this could be it.
I will tell you that the trickiest thing is in all the years that I've done the middle school football, I did it for a number of years and then had to stop and then picked it back up. My son got of age to do it. But very few times are you the very best in middle school and then the very best in high school and the very best in college. So two guys that come to mind that I coached or coached against that were just so dominant in high school where you're like, oh my God, or in middle school where you're like, oof. Then they get to high school.
Mm-hmm.
Brandon Shepard from Parkway Central, man amongst boys in middle school, and he was a man amongst boys in high school, but he got to college, did great, but some coaching changes. Todd Monken left, and that was his guy that recruited him and had some things probably not go his way. But his junior year, the last 5 games of the year they were probably one of the better receiver in college. So he had that in him.
Right.
Blaine Gabbert being the other. I mean, in middle school, like he was a man amongst boys, right? Doesn't mean he was perfect, but he was bigger, faster, stronger. And then he maintained that lead all the way through.
He was 6'4", like 220, 225 as a sophomore in high school, running a 4.5 40. Yeah. And it just continued on.
And I mentioned it earlier, Miles McVay was one that over at East St. Louis, who was always a big kid.
Yeah.
I mean, always a big kid. And he came in and started training when he was 8 years old. And it was oftentimes he got taken, he was being viewed as an older boy and he was acting like a little kid, but he was older. He was younger, but looked older. he graduated and went to Alabama in the spring, he was 17 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, he is young. So he's one of those guys at the end of the day, he's going to have a high ceiling because he's still growing and maturing physically. If you look at his body, he's lost a ton of weight. Alabama's done a heck of a job with
He's
him.
redeveloped his body, yeah.
And he's just he's 18 years old.
He is. And someday we need to have Miles come in and talk about his development, because I remember the first time seeing Miles train at your place at like 7th, 8th grade.
Yeah.
And just watching that development, what was done, we talked about Jamie Pond earlier, just amazing transition. And so it'd be fun to have him in here talking about that.
I spoke at his commitment day.
Ceremony.
Yeah, and it was kind of an interesting, fun day. They had a bunch, like he came up and came in and had a suit on. It was really well done. And like in prepping for the speech, I just out of curiosity looked back at like how many, sessions had Miles been in our building. It was like 250, 300 sessions. Like he had been group classes, not mentioning all the private stuff he did with Jamie.
Right.
Like unbelievable.
Paid off.
But his dad and parents so supportive of him, and such a good family, and doing it. And I get to see his dad every week is going to his games. I mean, just the love and support. I mean, they're living the dream.
That's really amazing.
He worked for it.
That we get to see that.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And watch that, see somebody grow. And that happen on that scale is just amazing. Want to give a quick shout out to Koby McClendon, who won I believe it was the defensive player of the week for the Big South OVC weekly honor. I think he had 3 sacks. He is
a stud. I mean, he's picking up where he left off last year. I mean, he's a guy who definitely has a motor. He's extremely athletic. And he just, again, like Coach Stugart has recruited so many guys to Lindenwood like him that are just good people, right? And then in the off season, he's out there coaching flag football with kids and like giving back to the community. He's just an awesome young man.
He really is a good guy out of St. Mary's High School, and was an okay cameraman for me. He worked for me as a cameraman one time.
There we go.
Jack, he didn't send me all the pictures, but that'll be all right. That'll be all right. I want to mention some recruiting stuff before we get out of here. Congratulations to Ryan Mitchell and Logan Scrivner. Both guys the same day. I don't know if it was coordinated or not. Guys, you can let me know. Committed to Missouri State. They're going to be Missouri State Bears. A couple of really, really good offensive linemen. Logan Scrivner from Francis Howell and Ryan Mitchell from Marquette.
Yeah, Ryan is a kid that I know very well. He's a guy who worked with Jamie Pond a ton. And I know at one point, like, it was kind of, hey, what's going to happen with recruiting, this and that? And he's probably not getting all the attention. It's like, he will. Once the people see him this summer, he will. I mean, he is solid as they come. He's a worker bee, and he's having a heck of a year. And I think
he is.
It's great to see Missouri State, coming into St. Louis and getting guys, because there was a period of time where they just either stayed away or didn't do it. And so they have definitely made an effort getting into St. Louis to recruit.
Yeah, they were recruiting the South a little too much, and it wasn't necessarily panning.
Didn't work out.
Didn't work out, hence the coaching changes. But yeah, congrats to those guys. Ryan Mitchell, really, really good guy. There's not a lot of daylight between him and Talon Chandler. Okay, just as far as just physical, prowess, ability to play. Talon has put it together, the technique and the violence, and is that guy on every play.
Yes,
that's really what's separating. But Ryan, again, he's not finished. This isn't it.
No, I think that's interesting. For you offensive linemen that are out there, right? As we talk about looking at highlight films and how you put your highlight films. Go back and look at the films of the kids that are a little bit older than you, that from our area that have been recruited to schools that you want to go to, and watch the violence of the offensive linemen and finishing blocks. Yes, great pass sets, things of that nature. Run block, absolutely getting into people and finishing them. I mean, I think we said what Talon had a film a couple weeks ago.
17 pancakes.
17 pancakes.
Yeah.
Josh Baker in Arizona.
Got to see him this past weekend.
Tons of pancakes. Ryan Justice, that was advice we gave him, was like, hey, you got to be more aggressive on the film. And last year, his film coming as junior year, he was just
taking guys
on the sideline, right?
Yeah.
But that,
It's difficult for big guys to become that guy.
Yes.
A lot of the times. Sometimes they're slow to develop that. Sometimes it's because they are bigger. Yeah. And so people are always like, you need to be nice. Oh, he's littler than you, right? Yeah. Just in day-to-day life.
You're correct. When you're on that field, take care of business.
Oh, absolutely. Everybody's your size. They're too bad if they're not.
They look at that. Colleges definitely. I mean, I've been in my fair share of conversations with collegiate coaches about specific offensive linemen, or been listening when Jamie's talking to coaches. And I mean, they want to know, is he, yes, you have to be that passive aggressive guy because you're an offensive lineman. But when you pull the trigger, you have to be able to physically impose your will on other people. And if you can't do it in high school, you're not going to do it in college.
Stated perfectly. One last thing, Jason King, I had a chance to talk to him, and he was really talented. He is really on the upward trajectory.
Yes, he is.
Okay, Jason has come to the elite combine the past 2-3 years, and another guy just watched him develop, and another very well-spoken young man who just has it all together, similar to Jackson Cantwell, just great representative. And so he's seeing that pick up.
I've seen him grow from being a little kid. He was a Chesterfield Bear and went through the years and then changed teams. I think he was North County Cowboys for a while, but he was always the little brother. Now he's not the little brother anymore.
No. Now he's the guy. And him and Ashton Phillips, didn't get a chance to talk to Coach Merritt about it, but those two linebackers are just two of the best in the state. And Ashton Phillips, linebacker, 6'1", 6'2", 230 pounds. One of the more underrated, under-recruited guys.
Yeah, he was new. He moved to St. Louis last year from Illinois.
Last year. He had a heck of a game, just a monster game against St. Mary's. I forget the number of tackles, sacks, but he was in the backfield. He was making plays, just blowing things up.
Yep.
Another guy. Well, I think that about does it for us for this week. Anything you want to talk about?
No, I think, as we get deeper into the show, I mean, let us know what you want us to talk about. But I think, we're going to talk more about just specific do's and don'ts of recruiting.
Yeah. You wanted to talk about recruiting service versus recruiting.
The scouting services
versus recruiting.
Yeah, recruiting services, the things.
So we can talk about that next week.
Yeah, I think that's something that people really need to be cognizant of and be aware of how it works, because colleges definitely receive that data differently. And there's a lot of questions that people ask about, should they pay for this? Should they pay for that? And there's certain things you need to avoid, and there's certain things you should definitely know, buyer beware. There's also certain people you need to deal with that can help get your name out there that doesn't cost you a dime.
Absolutely. So all stuff we're going to be talking about. But again, you can reach us at JPRockMO on Twitter, JP Rock Scouts U on Instagram.
Yep, and Elite Football on Twitter and Elite Football Academy on Instagram.
And Football 360 Show on Instagram and Twitter. And I understand we have a Facebook page now.
Yep, it's just Football 360 Show. And if you guys,
webpage.
We have a website that actually football360show.com that points you to all these different various methods you can watch us and see us on. But I know if you guys, like, share, and subscribe to the show, it definitely helps us as far as getting the word out.
Yes.
We certainly enjoy doing this. Yeah, tell everybody about it, because it is one of those things that but there's certainly things we can talk about. So if you guys give us feedback about things you're interested or questions you have about the process, I think we have a good enough set of knowledge between the two of us that we can point you in the right direction.
We know a thing or two, as they say.
We've been there and done that.
We know a thing or two. And as always, if you want to sponsor the show, you want to reach megs at Football 360 Show, megs at football360show.com, like the wonderful Wentes. Go check them out as well and tell them Matt and JP sent you. And have a great week. Have a great weekend. And everybody stay safe.
Good luck.
Yep. Good luck to everybody out there. And we'll talk to you next week.